You can see that night, a heavy rainstorm, and she's driving.
A deadly accident in a tropical paradise, and a mystery.
There appeared to be a figure covered with a blanket.
That's the place we found some trace evidence.
A call for a unique forensic mind. Hilo, Hawaii Sergeant Ken Matheson told the police he accidentally ran over his wife with a family van. But investigators were suspicious, and they called in renowned forensic expert Henry Lee. His first stop on the Big Island, the scene of the accident. When Dr. Lee returned to Hilo with Major Timothy Palmbach, who has worked with him for 25 years and now heads Connecticut's forensic lab, he told Palmbach about the stroke of luck that changed the course of the investigation. Ken Matheson reportedly thought the $300 impound charge to reclaim his van was too steep and never picked it up. Today, the van is at the Hilo police station, and Lee showed Palmbach what he found. They began as they usually do, examining the exterior of the vehicle. It was what Henry Lee didn't find that told him Yvonne Matheson wasn't hit by the van while she was standing.
There's no damage. When we examined the exterior of the vehicle, no hair, no tissue, no fabric impression, no damage of the vehicle was found.
But when Dr. Lee looked inside the van, he could see the case was far from closed.
As soon as you get into the driver's area, you get some blood staining that was very unique and very distinctive, and almost instantly brought Dr. Lee to the conclusion that something significant happened here.
Henry Lee demonstrates there was a 30-inch blood drip on a side panel in the front of the van. There were blood smears and drops on the door, and blood spatter on the driver's side window. It was the swipe pattern that interested Dr. Lee the most. There was similar movement in the stain on the sun visor, which he believed was also caused by Yvonne Matheson's hair soaked in blood, possibly during a struggle. In the back of the van, there was some cast-off spatter on the ceiling. But the evidence that had really stumped investigators was 100 blood drops on the instrument panel and middle console. If Ken Matheson had put his injured wife in the back of the van, as he claimed, how did her blood get into the driver's compartment?
This is a medium velocity impact blood spatter. We look at the size. It's a range from 5 millimeter to 1 millimeter in size. On the instrumental panel, have a similar pattern.
The size and shape of each blood drop told Henry Lee a great deal about what happened that night. He found the exact angle each drop had hit the surface using a trigonometric calculation, then used string to traject back to where the blood had originated. The evidence suggested Yvonne Matheson was in the driver's seat, not in the back cargo area as her husband had claimed. Even more significant, the pattern of the blood drops on the dashboard told Dr. Lee that she might have been struck 4 times. Ken Matheson finished his wife off on the rainy roadway by running her over and then returned her muddy body to the back of the van. This scenario was consistent with something else Dr. Lee found. Most of the blood in the back of the van was not diluted by water. That told him Yvonne Matheson was bleeding inside the van before she was dragged into the rainy night. Henry Lee concluded that Yvonne Matheson's tragic death on a Hawaiian highway was no accident. Once Dr. Lee submitted his findings to the Hilo police, Matheson was arrested and charged with murder. Investigators still weren't sure what the murder weapon was. Dr. Lee found a clue in a clump of 20 severed hairs in the van's door.
This portion of hair smashed and broken, which means a blunt force hit the surface.
But the most chilling piece of forensic evidence that Henry Lee found was barely visible to the human eye.
This clear liquid will go onto the stain, and the presence of the blood will catalyze this reaction and almost instantaneous. You'll get a color transformation of the trace amounts of the blood.
Well, after spraying, you can see the pattern will show up. A hand coming downwards, a fist comes this way, additional blood drop we noticed in this area.
It was Yvonne Matheson's last attempt to escape what she had feared was inevitable, a fatal beating that started in the front of the van. It took the jury less than 3 hours to convict Ken Matheson of murder and kidnapping. He was sentenced to life in prison.